Receiving an entire season's rainfall in a span of 48 hours, Chennai city has literally been brought to its knees.
For WION, World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Hello and a very warm welcome. It's 9 p.m. IST and we are coming to you live from the WION headquarters in Noida, India. I'm Molly Gambhir and you are watching Gravitas. Let's get started. With escalation on both sides, is the situation now heading towards a direct confrontation between Russia and the NATO? A Russian nuclear submarine has docked in Havana. Also, Russian warplanes have reportedly crossed into NATO airspace. That's our top story tonight on Gravitas, coming up in just a bit. And here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. Is America's patience with Israel now exhausted? Will the US cut Israel out of the Hamas hostage talks? Will US officials be negotiating a unilateral deal with Hamas to secure the release of 5 Americans being held hostage in Gaza? After terrorists attacked a bus carrying pilgrims in India's Jammu and Kashmir's Riyasi district, the hunt continues to find the Kashmir killers. We get you up to speed with the very latest. 4 US college instructors teaching in China have been stabbed while visiting a public park. What was the motive? What is China saying? How has America reacted? What does this mean for the safety of foreigners in China? And will this impact US-China ties? All this and more coming up tonight on Gravitas. It is the 11th of June 2024 and a direct confrontation between Russia and the NATO looks almost inevitable. You see, there are escalations on both the sides. Russian warships have reached Cuba. A Russian nuclear submarine has docked in Havana. Russian warplanes have reportedly crossed into NATO airspace. America has heightened vigilance, armed a dangerous far-right faction of the Ukrainian military. Also, Ukraine is upping its drone game. Belarus and Russia are carrying out nuclear exercises. There are more developments, all hinting that a bigger war may be just one mistake away. Let's start off with what's happening in the war zone. Russia is claiming that it has taken control of one more village in Ukraine's Donetsk region. The name of this village is Staromai-Orsky. This is where it is on the map. There have also been strikes in other parts of Ukraine. In Kharkiv, Ukrainian rescuers managed to save a man who was buried under the rubble after Russian fire hit a residential area.
Поднимай. Тяни ногу! Ногу тяни, все, давай,
Взяли!
Сюда, давай. Давай сюда. Все, тихонечко.
Аккуратно!
Аккуратно до сюда и передавай. Нет,
Now, Russia claims it has managed to shoot down a Ukrainian MiG-29 fighter jet. The Kremlin also claims it has intercepted Neptune anti-ship missiles. And Ukraine, on the other hand, says it has managed to hit a Russian oil refinery. Ukrainian officials claiming the Novoshakhtinsk oil refinery in Russia's Rostov Oblast was struck on the 5th of June. Ukraine claims the attack destroyed 1.5 million tons of oil and oil products. In fact, Kiev estimates the total loss to be worth $540 million. Also, in a first, the White House has officially confirmed that Ukraine has used American weapons to hit Russian territory. Not too far from the war zone, Belarus and Russia are conducting a nuclear drill. This is the second stage of the tactical drill. Now, Russia says these drills are meant to ensure that the two countries are ready to protect their sovereignty, adding that European provocations necessitate these exercises. Remember, Russian President Vladimir Putin has not taken lightly West's decision to arm Ukraine with long-range missiles that are capable of hitting deep within Russia. During the ongoing exercises, troops from both the countries are expected to work on the combat use of non-strategic nuclear weapons. And this comes at a time when a Russian nuclear submarine, along with Russian warships, have docked in Havana, Cuba. Visiting Cuba is Russian frigate Gorshkov, fleet oil tanker Pashin, the rescue tug Nikolai Chika, and nuclear-powered submarine Kazam. These ships and submarines are fitted with long-range missiles like the Caliber and Zircon that are capable of striking as far as New York, Washington, D.C. and Chicago. America is on alert. U.S. media, in fact, reporting that American ships have already been deployed and tasked with shadowing the Russian warships. Reports say 2 American destroyers have been tasked into action, as have 2 other ships that tow sonar equipment. Back in Ukraine, Kiev is preparing for an offensive. This is Vadim Sukharevsky. He is Ukraine's commander of drone forces. This is a new post that Ukraine has created, by the way, keeping in mind the changing nature of the warfare, also keeping in mind Ukraine's hits and misses. We told you just yesterday how Ukrainian drones have managed to hit one of Russia's stealth fighter jets, the Sukhoi Su-57. Ukraine managed to strike this jet on the tarmac of an airbase in the Astrakhan region. We have high-resolution images of the damage. Like we've been telling you, this is almost 600 kilometers from the front line. The question is, will it add to the growing tensions in the sea? Will Russia retaliate by striking deep into Ukrainian land? Will it become a logistics versus logistics warfare? Ukraine is already drawing up a plan for this possibility. It is drawing up a plan to secure the US-made F-16s that Kiev will be receiving from its European allies. The plan is to house some of these fighter jets in air bases outside Ukraine, meaning chances are these jets will be in a NATO hangar. But is that a foolproof plan? What if Russia does not shy away from striking a non-Ukrainian aerodrome? Just look at what Finland is claiming. It says a Russian jet violated Finnish airspace. As per Finland's defense ministry, the Russian fighter jet flew into Finland's airspace on Monday. The jet allegedly entered 2.5 kilometers into Finland's territory. What's more, the Russian military jet stayed in Finland's airspace for about 2 minutes. The airspace violation reportedly happened in the eastern part of the Gulf of Finland. This is the first such airspace violation since Finland became a NATO member, which means if Finland's claims are correct, what you essentially have here is Russia entering NATO airspace, and that is dangerous, that is provocative. Speaking of which, let me tell you what America has done. It has armed a faction of the Ukrainian armed forces that Russia brands as neo-Nazis. The US has lifted weapon sanctions that were imposed on the Azov Brigade. This is a unit of the Ukrainian military with quite a checkered history. The Azov Brigade started off as a militia that was absorbed into the Ukrainian National Guard in 2015. This unit is accused of human rights violations by the United Nations, which is why Washington had banned the Azov Brigade from using American arms. But now, as the war escalates, Washington has pulled a swift U-turn. The State Department has said, and I'm quoting here, after thorough review, Ukraine's 12th Special Forces Azov Brigade passed Lehi vetting as carried out by the US Department of State. What is the Lehi vetting? The Lehi law prevents the US from militarily assisting foreign units that are guilty of human rights violation. So what the US is basically saying now is that the Azov Brigade is not guilty of human rights violation, that Washington has found, quote unquote, no evidence. What gives? Perhaps the desperation to defeat Russia at all costs? You see, the Azov Brigade has proved to be very effective in the war. It fought hard to defend the Azovstal steel mill in Mariupol. This was in the early months of the war. The battle went in favor of Russia, but the strong front put up by the Azov Brigade did not go unnoticed. And now, as the war escalates, the US has decided to give the Azov Brigade full access to its cache of weapons. And here is how Russia has reacted to this. Listen to this.
Крайне негативно. Речь идет о ультранационалистах, ультранационалистических вооруженных подразделениях. И, собственно, такая внезапная смена позиции Вашингтона говорит о том, что они ничем не гнушаются в своих попытках подавить Россию. Подавить Россию, используя, естественно, Украину, украинский народ в качестве инструмента в своих руках.
So what you have here is escalation from both the sides, leaving ample scope for a fatal miscalculation. happens when Chinese troops march towards Taiwan? Now, this is a question many have struggled to answer, including the militaries on both the sides of the Taiwan Strait. They have carried out rehearsals. Experts have carried out simulations, all aimed at answering what really happens if a war breaks out in the Taiwan Strait. One US military official has come up with an answer. This is Admiral Samuel Paparo. He is the commander of the US Indo-Pacific Command. Paparo recently spoke to the US media on the sidelines of the Shangri-La dialogue in Singapore. He was asked about the US strategy with regard to an escalation in the Taiwan Strait. Paparo said, and I'm quoting here, "I want to turn the Taiwan Strait into an unmanned hellscape using a number of classified capabilities so that I can make their lives utterly miserable for a month, which buys me the time for the rest of everything." The US commander was asked for details and he replied, I'm quoting further, "I can't tell you what's in it, but it's real and it is deliverable." He mentioned hellscape. What do you think that means? Now, technically, it means a situation that's extremely unpleasant, of course. But how do the Americans plan to make the Taiwan Strait a hellscape for the Chinese exactly? Paparo used the word unmanned. The US strategy of hellscape involves deploying drones as the first line of defense. As soon as Chinese troops begin moving towards Taiwan, the US would deploy unmanned submarines, unmanned ships, and drones. They will all flood the Taiwan Strait, fight the Chinese, and keep the People's Liberation Army busy. This will give Taiwan, the US, and its allies the time to prepare for a response. Now, is America already working towards the hellscape plan? There are signs. The US, for example, is spending upwards of $1 billion on a program called Replicator. Through this program, America is building unmanned surface ships and aerial drones. But when will these unmanned vehicles be delivered? There is no word on that. Also, for how long can American hellscape keep the PLA engaged? China, remember, has been expanding its military arsenal. It is spending on submarines, on air force, on space-based weapons as well. Is American hellscape a good match for the Chinese capabilities is the question. You see, when it comes to Taiwan, America has always maintained strategic ambiguity, meaning that it has not clearly said whether or not it will come to the defense of Taiwan. Sure, US President Joe Biden has said on multiple occasions that Washington will indeed defend Taipei, but he has also recently told the US magazine that American response will depend on the circumstances. Also, what happens if Biden is not re-elected to office? We know for a fact that former US President Donald Trump, who is running for office again, is not keen on defending Taiwan. He believes there isn't much that the American troops can actually do when it comes to defending a tiny island that's thousands of miles away from Washington. So it comes back to that big question. What really happens when Chinese troops march towards Taiwan? Will the US cut Israel out of the Hamas hostage talks? Is America's patience exhausted with Israel? Why are we asking these questions? Because of what things are looking like right now. Sample this. US officials have considered negotiating a unilateral deal with Hamas to secure the release of 5 Americans being held hostage in Gaza if the ceasefire talks involving Israel fail. This is what NBC News has reported. Let me say that again. US officials have considered negotiating a unilateral deal with Hamas to secure the release of 5 American hostages. What does this mean? Why is this happening? Where are things headed? First things first, let me tell you more about this report. The report cited 2 current and 2 former US officials. It was not clear what the US might offer Hamas in exchange. Such negotiations would not include Israel and would be conducted through Qatari interlocutors, as current talks have been. This is what the unidentified officials told the network. NBC said that they have all been briefed on the negotiations. You know what the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said? Reacting to this report, I'm quoting, "The best way, the most effective way to get everyone home, including the American hostages, is through this proposal, is through the ceasefire deal that is on the table right now." What about Hamas? Would it be interested? The official said Hamas would have an incentive to reach such a deal with Washington because it would strain US-Israel relations further and add pressure on the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Netanyahu, remember, has been criticized at home for not doing more to get the hostages out and has been under mounting pressure. So what about Israel? How has it reacted? Asked about the report, Israeli government spokesperson David Mencer told reporters that all countries should do whatever they can to get hostages out. So that's that. But then the thing is, pressure is also building on Joe Biden to show progress on bringing the hostages home and also repatriating the remains of 3 US citizens whose bodies are believed to be held by Hamas after being killed during the attack on Israel on the 7th of October. So what should one make of the report, really? You see, whether it actually happens or not, even the consideration of unilateral talks is quite big. It says a lot about how the US might be running out of patience with Benjamin Netanyahu. But then if the United States actually does go ahead with this, if it does negotiate directly with Hamas on the release of the American hostages, would it not be legitimizing the group? Just for context here, in case you weren't aware already, the United States has designated Hamas as a terrorist organization. So, you see, it has a tight rope to walk there. Will it end up cutting Israel out of the Hamas hostage talks? All eyes are on its next move. In India, the hunt is on to find the Kashmir killers. Days after terrorists attacked a bus carrying pilgrims in Jammu and Kashmir's Riyasi district, the Indian Army, the Jammu and Kashmir Police and the paramilitary units have joined forces to nab the terrorists involved in the attack. Here's a detailed report.
The Jammu and Kashmir Police, along with the Indian Army and paramilitary forces, have launched a massive manhunt to nab the terrorists involved in the Riyasi attack. Security forces have formed 11 teams to carry out searches in the area. The Indian Army has also deployed choppers and drones across Riyasi. The investigation of the case has been handed over to the National Investigation Agency. It is being assisted by the State Investigation Agency of the Jammu and Kashmir Police. The teams have collected evidence from the attack spot, and they've also started questioning some people in the area. Security forces believe that the attackers could be hiding in the forest area of Riyasi. Jammu region's Rajouri Poonch belt has become a hub of terrorists in the last few months. Most of the active terrorists in the Union territory are from Pakistan. They've carried out multiple terror attacks in recent months. These terrorists are believed to be part of Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. The Jammu and Kashmir police recently released 3 pictures of 3 Pakistani terrorists active in the Rajouri-Poonch belt. The first terrorist is a top commander of Lashkar, identified as Abu Hamza. The second terrorist goes by the name Fauji. It is believed that he is a former Pakistani army commando. The third terrorist is identified as Adan. Lieutenant General of Jammu and Kashmir, Manoj Sinha, held a meeting today to discuss the security situation in the Union territory. The meeting was attended by top officials of the Indian Army, the Jammu and Kashmir Police, the CRPF, and the BSF. During the meeting, the Lieutenant General stressed on the security of the upcoming Amarnath Yatra, which is starting on June 29th.
Our next story comes from China. A shocking incident unfolded there, one which has triggered serious concern around the world. What happened? A stabbing attack. 4 US college instructors teaching in China have been stabbed while visiting a public park. Yes, a public park. Which part of China are we talking about? Northeast China's Jilin province. And what do we know so far about the incident? What are the authorities saying? Who was responsible? The suspect is a 55-year-old local man surnamed Kui. Local police say the man was detained the same day. How are the victims doing? As per the police, the victims' injuries were not life-threatening, thankfully. But the concerns, of course, continue. So what really happened? Police saying the suspect collided into a foreigner while walking in the park and then stabbed the foreigner and 3 fellow foreigners with a knife, as well as a Chinese tourist who tried to stop him. No further motive for the attack has been disclosed. The educators from Cornell College were on a teaching exchange program with a partner university, Behua, in Jilin City. On Tuesday, China's foreign ministry said the incident was a random attack and that it would not affect normal people-to-people exchanges between China and the United States. Basically, it tried to downplay the impact on the ties between the two sides. China's foreign ministry spokesperson Lin Jian told the reporters at a daily briefing that the police have preliminarily judged that this was a random incident, but an investigation is ongoing. And what does the United States have to say? How has the United States reacted? The U.S. State Department earlier said it was aware of the reports of the stabbing incident in China and is monitoring the situation. In fact, Nicholas Burns, the U.S. ambassador to China, posted on the social media site X that he was angered and deeply troubled by the stabbing of 3 U.S. citizens and 1 non-citizen resident of Iowa. Just to put things in context here, the timing of the attack is very significant. It comes at a time when both Beijing and Washington are seeking to expand people-to-people exchanges. Meanwhile, a few posts about the incident on the Chinese social media platform Weibo questioned widespread censorship of the incident in official media. One Weibo user posted asking the question, do they really think that censoring domestic discussion of the incident impacts whether foreigners choose to visit China or not? Chinese President Xi Jinping this year pledged to invite 50,000 young Americans to China for study programs in order to boost people-to-people ties. But a State Department Level 3 travel advisory to China warning of possible arbitrary detention and exit bans remains in place. According to US data, there are currently fewer than 900 American exchange students studying in China compared to over 290,000 Chinese students in the United States. And following the stabbing attack, China's foreign ministry has said that it would continue taking effective measures to ensure the safety of foreigners in China. Well, yes, that does need to happen. This incident, after all, has triggered serious concern, like I said. Why were these instructors targeted? What was the motive? These answers need to emerge sooner than later. It is, after all, about the safety of foreigners in China. And for now, shifting focus to some big breaking news coming in from the United States this minute, where Hunter Biden, the son of US President Joe Biden, has been found guilty of lying about drug use to buy a gun. A jury in Wilmington, Delaware, found Hunter Biden guilty on all 3 counts. That's the latest coming in. If you're just joining us, that's the latest on the Hunter Biden gun trial. Remember, there have been a very closely watched developments that have panned out over the last few hours in the run-up to this to the proceedings in the court, and also what this really means for the US President Joe Biden, also for his campaign coming just months before the US election. And joining me on this developing story, just to piece together the latest coming in at this point from New York, is our correspondent Susan Teherani. Susan, hi. If you can just bring us up to speed first with what the latest is coming in from the court.
Well, just a few minutes ago, we did see Hunter Biden leave that courtroom in Delaware holding hands with his stepmother, First Lady Jill Biden, and his wife by his side. Now, legal experts believe that because there is a 25-year sentence on this verdict, he will spend some time behind bars. However, it's the first time he's been convicted. He's a nonviolent offender. That may be reduced. But ultimately, going to jail is an option. Now, President Joe Biden mentioned in an interview while he was overseas that he won't pardon his son. We'll have to wait and see if that will ultimately be the case or not. But for now, this is absolutely breaking news. It really comes after the heel of that verdict against former President Donald Trump, the Republican leading candidate that was convicted on 34 felony charges here in New York, and, just months to the November presidential election.
Indeed, I was just going to ask you, for the reaction coming in from the Biden family, because U.S. President Joe Biden earlier, like you pointed out, had said that he does not rule out pardon. Of course, Jill Biden was there earlier in the courtroom as well. What does all of this really mean as far as the optics are concerned, coming in just months before the U.S. election?
Yeah, it's very interesting to see how different networks really covered Hunter Biden's trial. Those that, really side with Democrats more often than not, which would be the mainstream media, they really tried to hone in and focus on the struggles that this family was facing with addiction, and that it would sort of touch a raw nerve with families across the United States who are also struggling with drug addiction. And perhaps, Americans would be more forgiving for something like this. But then, you see the verdict come out dry and clear very early on after deliberations began. I mean, they began yesterday afternoon. It didn't even take 24 hours. And you have to wonder, at what point is anyone above the law? And sympathies aside, then, where does the law stand since Donald Trump had been treated that way? I do want to say that the judge has a lot of discretion. So even if Joe Biden doesn't pardon Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden could ultimately maybe serve a little time down the road, if you may, so it's really up to this judge.
And we're leaving it there for the moment, Susan, but of course coming back to you as and when we have further updates coming in on that. We will, of course, keep a close eye on those developments coming in from the United States. But for now, shifting focus to Pakistan, where the central bank has lowered its benchmark rate by 150 basis points, bringing it down to 20.50%. Now, This is a significant cut, the first in 4 years, exceeding expectations, as most economists predicted a 100 basis point reduction. The State Bank of Pakistan's decision coming after the consumer prices eased for the 5th consecutive month thanks to improved domestic food supplies and falling fuel costs. The central bank, in fact, had maintained a record high rate of 22% since last June to control inflation. And now, with inflation slowing more than anticipated in the month of May, the bank sees it as a moment to reduce the policy rate and support economic recovery. Pakistan is targeting a 3.6% expansion in the next fiscal year, up from the current year's 2.4%. The rate cut is expected to ease the pressure on the treasury yields and make debt obligations more manageable. Economists forecast that this move marks the beginning of a monetary easing cycle, predicting the key rate could drop to 17.25% by the end of the year. The State Bank of Pakistan highlighting that despite the reduction, the real interest rate remains significantly positive, guiding inflation towards the medium-term target of 5 to 7%. Pakistan's administration is currently negotiating a new loan program with the International Monetary Fund. Securing support from the IMF will be crucial for shoring up foreign exchange reserves and meeting the upcoming fiscal year's debt payments of $24 billion. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's forthcoming budget is anticipated to include stringent fiscal and monetary measures like raising taxes and energy tariffs to secure further IMF funds. The central bank cautioning that the upcoming budget could present near-term inflation risks and create uncertainty around energy prices. Apple has finally jumped on the AI bandwagon. At its annual developers conference, the company made several significant announcements, the most prominent being the introduction of AI to its products like iPhones and iPads. The announcement, however, has received mixed feedback. Well, we will tell you why many people are not impressed with Apple's AI move. But before that, let's just understand what these new AI features really do as far as Apple devices are concerned. Apple Intelligence is the biggest highlight. It's a set of new AI features for Apple devices. They have been developed in partnership with OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT. Interestingly, Apple will integrate ChatGPT technology into Siri, that's its voice assistant. In other words, Siri will tap into ChatGPT's expertise. According to Apple CEO Tim Cook, AI will enable Siri to interact with messages, emails, the calendar, as well as third-party applications. And not just that, Siri will also be able to write emails and change the tone of voice to suit the occasion. Apple Intelligence will be added to a new version of the iOS 18 operating system. Apple executives have also stressed that privacy safeguards have been built into Apple Intelligence to make its Siri digital assistant and other products smarter without compromising on user data. While Apple says it protects user data at every step, the partnership with OpenAI has sparked questions and concerns over privacy. Why is that? Firstly, AI could require access to personal data to function effectively, which basically means that users may be wary of continuous data collection and its potential misuse. Secondly, it's built into everything. Imagine AI anticipating your every move before you even intend to make one. Also, Elon Musk has emerged as the most vocal critic, harshly criticizing the move as a potential security breach. This is what he has shared on the social media platform X. He threatens to ban Apple devices from his companies. Musk's post reads, and I'm quoting here, if Apple integrates OpenAI at the OS level, then Apple devices will be banned at my companies. That is an unacceptable security violation. Also, let's just note here that the company that has always been known as the most innovative tech firm has made a rather late entry into the AI space. And this cannot be ignored. The questions around the delayed decision are many. Is Apple lagging behind in the innovation space? Is the top management and its decision-making skills that can be blamed for such late response to the AI competition? The fact remains that Apple has been a late entrant to the AI space, and it now aims to overtake the early leaders like Microsoft and Google. But it remains to be seen how well this new partnership between Apple and OpenAI will actually shape up. And most importantly, how effectively and responsibly Apple will execute the AI features, especially in times when artificial intelligence has proven to be a big threat to user privacy. Let's just see if the integration of AI into Apple devices would actually turn out to be a game changer or a data privacy nightmare. Moving on for now, have you ever wondered what the sounds of animals are meant for or what they really mean? New research suggests wild African elephants call each other unique names. That's right. Here's a detailed report. Take a look.
It is extremely rare for wild animals to call each other by unique names. Humans have names, of course, and our dogs respond when their names are called. Well, cats not so much. Baby dolphins invent their own names, called signature whistles. Now, according to new research, African savanna elephants respond to individual names. The names are in the form of low rumbles that can be heard over long distances across the savanna. Scientists believe that animals with complex social structures in family groups that separate and come back together again may be more likely to use individual names. Biologists used machine learning to detect the use of names in a sound library of elephant vocalizations. These vocalizations are recorded at Kenya's Samburu National Reserve and Amboseli National Park.
We undertook this study by recording the elephants. They speak infrasonically and sonically, so about half of the sound in their call is below our level of hearing, so we actually cannot hear it. And so we had to use a special microphone to record these calls.
The researchers followed the elephants in jeeps to observe both who called out and who appeared to respond.
Elephants do these really interesting behaviors where sometimes when they're in a big group, a female or a matriarch of the group will give a call and the entire group will respond. They'll group up around her, they'll follow her.
Elephant rumbles include infrasonic sounds below the range of human hearing. The scientists still do not know which part of the vocalization is the name. Researchers tested their results by playing recordings to individual elephants who responded more energetically, ears flapping and trunks lifted, to recordings that contained their names. Scientists hope this study could pave the way for a change in human-elephant relations in the near future.
It's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Namaste. Hello, friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra show, popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years, from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25 million people every week. For past 6 years, the demand of the show has never died down. People write to us, people ask for the show to restart again. Hence, we are beginning the show once again on All Z Network, also on WION, which is the global network channel from India. Again, thank you for your love and affection. See you soon at Subhash Chandra Show.
Economic turmoil and global unrest have cast a shadow over President Joe Biden's approval ratings.
The rockets are continuing to be fired by Hamas in Gaza, although at a slower rate than previously.
So, right now, we are with the volunteers from the Aleppo municipality. They are still trying to go to the rescue for the people they can find out.
India has emerged as a major diplomatic force at the world stage.
The rising cost of living in Nigeria continues to impact citizens from all walks of life.
The citizens of Gujarat witnessed a mega roadshow here in the city of Ahmedabad.
China is South Africa's largest trading partner for 134 years straight.
A domestic aircraft carrying 72 people on board crashed in Pokhara city in central Nepal.
165 injuries have been moved. 61 people are confirmed dead and rescue operations continue around me.
After receiving an entire season's rainfall in a span of 48 hours, Chennai city has literally been brought to its knees.
For WION, World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the US.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
Namaste. Hello, friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra show, popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years, from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25 million people every week. For past 6 years, the demand of the show has never died down. People write to us, people ask for the show to restart again. Hence, we are beginning the show once again on All Z Network, also on WION, which is the global network channel from India. Again, thank you for your love and affection. See you soon at Subhash Chandra Show.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Economic turmoil and global unrest have cast a shadow over President Joe Biden's approval ratings.
The rockets are continuing to be fired by Hamas in Gaza, although at a slower rate than previously.
So, right now, we are with the volunteers from the Aleppo municipality. They are still trying to go to the rescue for the people they can find out.
India